Wonder, pages 293 to 310. Take your seats, everyone. Jack and I walked right behind a couple of sixth graders into the building and then followed them to the auditorium. Mrs. G was at the entrance, handing out programs and telling kids where to go. Fifth graders down the aisle to the left, she said. Sixth graders go to the right. Everyone come in, come in. Good morning. Go straight to your staging areas. Fifth graders go to the left, sixth to the right. The auditorium was huge inside. Big, sparkly chandeliers, red velvet walls, rows and rows and rows of cushioned seats leading up to the giant stage. We walked down the wide aisle and followed the signs to the fifth grade staging area, which was in a big room to the left of the stage. Inside were 4 rows of folding chairs facing the front of the room, which is where Miss Rubin was standing, waving us in as soon as we walked in the room. Okay, kids, take your seats. Take your seats, she was saying, pointing to the rows of chairs. Don't forget you're sitting alphabetically. Come on, everyone, take your seats. Not too many kids had arrived yet, though, and the ones who had weren't listening to her. Me and Jack were sword fighting with our own rolled up programs. Hey guys! It was Summer, walking over to us. She was wearing a light pink dress, and I think a little makeup. Wow, Summer, you look awesome, I told her, because she really did. Really? Thanks. You do too, Augie. Yeah, you look okay, Summer, said Jack, kind of matter-of-factly. And for the first time, I realized Jack had a crush on her. This is so exciting, isn't it? Said Summer. Yeah, kind of, I answered, nodding. Oh, man, look at this program, said Jack, scratching his forehead. We're going to be here all freaking day. I looked at my program. Headmaster's opening remarks, Dr. Harold Jansen, middle school director's address, Mr. Lawrence Tushman, light and day, middle school choir, 5th grade student commencement address, Zena Chin, Pack Bell and Canon D, middle school chamber ensemble, 6th grade student commencement address, Mark Antonok, Under Pressure, middle school choir, middle school dean's address, Ms. Jennifer Rubin, awards presentation, see back, roll call of names. Why do you think that? I asked. Because Mr. Jensen's speeches go on forever, said Jack. He's worse than Mr. Tushman. My mom actually dozed off when he spoke last year, Summer added. What's the awards presentation? I asked. That's where they give all the medals for the biggest brainiacs, Jack answered, which would mean Charlotte and Zima will win everything in the 5th grade, just like Charlotte won everything in 4th grade and in 3rd grade. Not in 2nd grade, I laughed. They didn't give those awards out in 2nd grade, he answered. Maybe you'll win this year, I joked. Not unless they give awards for the most C's, he laughed. Everybody take your seats, Ms. Rubin started yelling louder, like she was getting annoyed that everyone wasn't listening. We have a lot to get through, so take your seats. Don't forget you're sitting in alphabetical order. A through G, first row. H through N is the second row. O through Q, third row. R through Z is the last row. Let's go, people. We should go sit down, said Summer, walking toward the front section. You guys are definitely coming over to my house after this, right? I called after her. Definitely, she said, taking her seat next to Zima Chin. When did Summer get so hot? Jack muttered in my ear. Shut up, dude, I said, laughing as we headed down the 3rd row. Seriously, when did that happen? He whispered, taking the seat next to mine. Mr. Will, Ms. Rubin shouted. Last time I checked, W came between R and Z, yes? Jack looked at her blankly. Dude, you're in the wrong row, I said. I am? And the face he made as he got up to leave was a mixture of looking completely confused and looking like he just played a joke on someone. Totally cracked me up. A simple thing. About an hour later, we were all seated in a giant auditorium waiting for Mr. Tushman to give his middle school address. The auditorium was even bigger than I had imagined it would be, even bigger than the one at Via's school. I looked around, and there must have been 1 million people in the audience. Okay, maybe not 1 million, but definitely a lot. Thank you, Headmaster Jansen, for those very kind words of introduction, said Mr. Tushman, standing behind the podium on the stage as he talked into the microphone. Welcome, my fellow teachers and members of the faculty. Welcome parents and grandparents, friends and honored guests, and most especially, welcome to my 5th and 6th grade students. Welcome to the Beecher Prep Middle School graduation ceremonies. Everyone applauded. Every year, continued Mr. Tushman, reading from his notes, with his reading glasses all the way down to the tip of his nose, I am charged with writing 2 commencement addresses. One for the 5th grade and one for the 6th grade graduation ceremony today. And one for the 7th and 8th grade ceremony that will take place tomorrow. And every year I say to myself, let me cut down on my work and just write one address that I can use for both situations. Seems like it shouldn't be such a hard thing to do, right? And yet each year I still end up with 2 different speeches, no matter what my intentions. And I finally figured out why this year. It's not, as you might assume, simple, because tomorrow I'll be talking to an older crowd with a middle school experience that is largely behind them, whereas your middle school experience is largely in front of you. No, I think it has to do more with this particular age that you are right now, this particular moment in your lives that even after 20 years of me being around students this age, still moves me. Because you're at the cusp, kids. You're at the edge between childhood and everything comes after. You're in transition. We are all gathered here together, Mr. Tushman continued, taking off his glasses and using them to point at all of us in the audience. All your family, friends, teachers, to celebrate not only your achievements of this past year, Beecher middle schoolers, but your endless possibilities. When you want to reflect on this past year, I want you to look at where you are now and where you've been. You've all gotten a little taller, a little stronger, a little smarter, I hope. Here are some people in the audience chuckled. But the best way to measure how much you've grown isn't by the inches or number of laps you can now run on the track, or even your grade point average, though those things are important to be sure. It's what you've done with your time, how you've chosen to spend your days, and whom you've touched with. You've chosen to spend your days with and whom you've touched this year. That to me is the greatest measure of success. There's a wonderful line in a book by J.M. Barrie, and no, it's not Peter Pan, and I'm not going to ask you to clap if you believe in fairies. Here everyone laughed. But in another book by J.M. Barrie called The Little White Bird, he writes, he started flipping through a small book on the podium until he found the page he was looking for. Then he put on his reading glasses. Shall we make a new rule of life? Always trying to be a little kinder than necessary. Here, Mr. Tushman looked up at the audience. Kinder than necessary, he repeated. What a marvelous line, isn't it? Kinder than is necessary. Because it's not enough to be kind. One should be kinder than needed. Why I love that line. That concept is that it reminds me that we carry us, as human beings, not just the capacity to be kind, but the very choice of kindness. And what does that mean? How is that measured? You can't use a yardstick. It's like I was saying just before. It's not like measuring how much you've grown in a year. It's not exactly quantifiable, is it? How do we know we've been kind? What is being kind anyway? He put on his reading glasses again and started flipping through another small book. There's another passage in a different book I'd like to share with you, he said. If you'll bear with me, I'll find it. Here we go. In Under the Eye of the Clock by Christopher Nolan. The main character is a young man who is facing some extraordinary challenges. There's one part where someone helps him, a kid in his class. On the surface, it's just a small gesture. But to this young man, whose name is Joseph, it's, well, if you permit me. He cleared his throat and read from the book. It was at these moments such as these that Joseph recognized the face of God in human form. It glimmered in their kindness to him. It glowed in their keenness. It hinted in their caring. Indeed, it caressed in their gaze. He paused and took off his reading glasses again. It glimmered in their kindness to him, he repeated, smiling. Such a simple thing, kindness. Such a simple thing. A nice word of encouragement given when needed. An act of friendship. A passing smile. He closed the book, put it down, and leaned forward to the podium. Children, what I want to impart you today is an understanding a value that is simple thing called kindness. And that's all I want to leave you with today. I know I'm kind of infamous for my verbosity. Here everyone laughed. I guess he was known for his long speeches. But what I want you, my students, to take away from your middle school experience, he continued, is the sure knowledge that in the future, you make for yourselves anything is possible. If every single person in the room made a rule that wherever you are, wherever you can, you will try to act a little kinder than necessary, the world would really be a better place. And if you do this, if you act just a little kinder than necessary, someone else, somewhere, someday, may recognize you, and in every single one of you, the face of God. He paused and shrugged. Or whatever politically correct spiritual representation of universal goodness you happen to believe in, he added quickly, smiling, which got a lot of laughs and loads of applause, especially from the back of the auditorium, where the parents were sitting. Awards. I liked Mr. Tushman's speech, but I have to admit, I kind of zoned out a little bit during the other speeches. I tuned in again as Ms. Rubin started reading off the names of the kids who'd made high honor roll, because we were supposed to stand up when our names were called. So I waited and listened for my name as she went down the list alphabetically. Reed Kingsley, Maya Markowitz, August Pullman. I stood up. Then when she finished reading off the names, she asked all of us to face the audience and take a bow, and everyone applauded. I had no idea where in the huge crowd my parents might be sitting. All I could see were the flashes of light from people taking photos and parents waving at their kids. I pictured Mom waving at me from somewhere, even though I couldn't see her. Then Mr. Tushman came back to the podium to present the medals for academic excellence. And Jack was right. Zima Chin won the gold medal for overall academic excellence in the 5th grade. Charlotte won silver. Charlotte also won the gold medal for music. Amos won the medal for overall excellence in sports, which I was really happy about because ever since the nature retreat, I considered Amos to be like one of my best friends in school. But I was really, really thrilled when Mr. Tushman called out Summer's name for the gold medal in creative writing. I saw Summer put her hand over her mouth when her name was called. And when she walked up onto the stage, I yelled, "Woohoo, Summer!" as loudly as I could, though I don't think she heard me. After the last name was called, all the kids who just won awards stood next to each other on stage. And Mr. Tushman said to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am very honored to present you this year's Beecher Prep Scholastic Achievers. Congratulations to all of you." I applauded the kids on stage and bowed. I was so happy for Summer. "The final award this morning," said Mr. Tushman after the kids on stage had returned to their seats, "is the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to honor students who have been notably or exemplary in certain areas throughout the school year. Typically, this medal has been our way of acknowledging volunteerism or service to the school." I immediately figured Charlotte would get this medal because she organized the coat drive this year. So I kind of zoned out about again. I looked at my watch. 10:56. I was getting hungry for lunch already. Henry Ward Beecher was, of course, the 19th century abolitionist and fiery sermonizer for human rights, after whom this school was named, Mr. Tushman was saying when I started paying attention again. While reading up on his life in preparation for this award, I came upon a passage that he wrote that seemed particularly consistent with the themes I touched on earlier. Themes I've been harping upon all year. Not just the nature of kindness, but the nature of one's kindness, the power of one's friendship, the test of one's character, the strength of one's courage. And here the weirdest thing happened. Mr. Tushman's voice cracked a little bit, like he got all choked up. He actually cleared his throat and took a big sip of water. I started paying attention for now to what he was saying.